In March of 2010, a funeral was held for a senior male elder from the village of Oulo, named Ila Karfa. His mother had come from the town of Ouri, and so as he lay dying, he asked that the masks from Ouri travel down the road to Oulo to perform at his funeral. He asked that his maternal uncles and their masks attend the funeral in Oulo. The Winiama people of Burkina Faso are one of several peoples whom the Mosi call Gurunsi. The other Gurunsi peoples are the Nuna, Nunama, Leila, Sisala, and Kasena. Because Gurunsi is a pejorative term, I will use their real name, which is Winiama, instead of the Mosi pejorative, which means the eaters of the bark of trees.
Wala anyam do ara hegu ma ho
Jimu wa mena wiye bigima yengom de na sa ya tasiki be una so se abimpa abimpe ah chinchi ma mena foto he
wala fumyo nyamo.
On the first day, the masks from Ouri prepared to leave the village. They then walked down the road from Ouri to Oulo, where they spent the day honoring the dead man at his funeral. Late in the afternoon of the first day, they return hot and tired to Ouri. The Winiama make masks that represent the spirits of nature, which people encounter in the wilderness. When people go out in the bush outside the village to gather food or firewood, or to herd their animals, or to clear new fields, from time to time they encounter something strange, something unexpected. It may be an animal that acts strangely, or a rock or a piece of iron, or something else in the path, or even sometimes a strange beast covered in fibers, with a wooden mask. When they return to the village, they visit their diviner, who may tell them that this represents a wild spirit that they must honor by carving and using a mask. These are all women of the Nyamu family who are dressed up in their best clothing to attend the funeral in Oulo. Here all of the masks parade together through the streets of the village on their way to the performance area. Almost all of these masks are very ancient. They are the sacred masks that belong to the senior male elder of each of the families. Sacred masks like these only appear for the most serious and important celebrations, including funerals. Just like a real bush buffalo, the mask scrapes its feet, kicking up dust before it performs. When you see the mask perform with the young woman, she imitates the mask by scraping her feet in the dust as well. The very large bush buffalo mask with the brightly colored costume belongs to my friend Yiriko Nyamu, an elder of the village of Ouri who I've known for many years. His son Martin Nyamu is my collaborator and cinematographer. The mask is fairly new. He owned a much older mask which had become damaged, but had it replaced only 2 years ago because it was too damaged to perform well. He commissioned the mask from the carver Tankien Konate, who lives and works in Ouri. He asked Tankien to make it look a little bit old, like the mask in my book. Funerals are, of course, much different than burials. When a person dies, his remains must be buried within 3 days. The date for the funeral is then set, weeks or even months later. The funeral is a memorial service at which all of the friends and family can gather to celebrate the life of the deceased and to bid his soul goodbye so that it can travel to the land of the ancestors. The masks belong to individual families, not to secret societies. The masks are all family-oriented and represent the spirits that watch over and protect each individual family. In a particular clan, there may be several different masks, each of which watches over a different family. It may be surprising to some people to see women and children participating in the mask festival. In other parts of Africa, women and children are completely excluded from any performance of masks because the masks are secret. Among almost all of the people in Burkina Faso, masks are not owned by secret societies, and so women and children have equal access along with senior men and boys. In fact, the young women enjoy dancing with the masks as much as do their brothers. Through the video, you can see the young women dancing with the same performance steps that their brothers use when they are wearing the masks. Here you see my colleague and collaborator Martin Nyamu performing alongside the mask that belongs to his father Yiriko Nyamu. I was able to see the same mask in March of 2010 when I visited my friend Yiriko at his home in Ouri. Each of these nature spirits has its own particular character. The wild bush buffalo is dangerous, it doesn't see well, and so it tends to lower its head and attack in any direction from which it senses danger. The masks with two curved horns represent some of the most dangerous and unpredictable spirits from the wilderness. Their costumes often include red fibers, which represent danger. They carry weapons, including clubs and spears, with which they do battle with the forces of the underworld. Because they are so dangerous and unpredictable, people try to stay away from them. The masked performers always try to interpret the character of the wilderness spirit that they represent. Each of these masks has its own particular, specific, personal style of performance. As you watch the video, you will see that each one performs just a little bit differently from the others. The bush buffalo, whose horns are so dangerous, tosses its head. The masks with curved horns are a little bit crazy, and so they're constantly adjusting their costumes. The guinea fowl mask is constantly pecking at the ground, tossing its head up and down. The Winiama are famous for masks with curved horns. The most common are one curved horn called kedune, as well as two curved horns. In this video you see very rare three curved horns and curved horns with a spirit figure. In one case the spirit figure is the figure of the chameleon. Several of the peoples of Burkina Faso use masks that represent ducks. Ducks may be considered to be supernatural because they are more resistant to disease than other poultry. When chickens and geese die, ducks survive. This mask is very ancient. It has been used in performance after performance for several decades. Older masks must sometimes be replaced when they become too damaged to be used in performance. This mask with two curved horns is a new replacement for a very ancient mask.
Hey, Lieutenant, Lieutenant. Hey.
The man in the brown robe in the background is the earth priest of Ouri. Here you see him supervising the arrival of the masks at the earth shrine in Ouri. This is one part of the ceremony which is secret. You can see in the background that one of the masks is chasing the women and children out of the compound because they're not supposed to see the sacrifices. Martin was able to film the sacrifices because he is an initiated male in the village and was allowed to witness and to film everything. I photographed the earth priest of Ouri with his one-horn mask in 2007. Elderly men such as the earth priest keep their masks hidden away, wrapped in blankets and safe underneath their beds in their bedrooms. This is a very old and very ancient mask, and because it belongs to the earth priest himself, all of the other masks bow before it. The whistling sound you hear is the voice of the mask. Masks are not allowed to speak using a human voice. The masked performer holds a split reed between his teeth, and he can blow air through the reed to produce the whistling voice of the mask. Although it is only 10 kilometers between Ouri and Oulo, by late afternoon all of the masks are tired and hot, and so they sit by the side of the road to rest, while the men who travel with them enjoy a gourd of millet beer.
What? I'm not gonna.
The person who had died was a male elder, and so his funeral takes 3 days. 3 is the sacred number associated with the male gender. If the person who died had been a senior woman, her funeral would have taken 4 days, because 4 is the sacred number associated with the female gender. On the first day, the masks appear in Oulo, and then march up the road from Oulo to Ouri. On the second day, all of the senior masks in the village appear to honor the deceased. On the third day, all of the masks visit the home of the dead man to honor him and to bid his soul goodbye, so that it can begin its journey to the land of the ancestors. The young woman you see here dressed in a green robe represents the deceased male elder at his funeral. All of the peoples of Burkina Faso honor the deceased at his funeral by having a young woman dress in his robe. The name of this mask, Zoni, means speak a word. This refers to the saying that one must always speak up when one recognizes witchcraft and ask for the help of the masks to destroy it. The performers are the young men of the family that owns the mask. They are usually between 18 and 30 years of age. The performers are chosen by the senior male elders of the family. Each young man may perform for a number of years until he becomes too old and stiff. They are chosen to perform in great part based on their talent. A young man who dances well is preferred over a young man who doesn't show any aptitude. You will often see older people dancing with the masks to show how they danced when they were younger and were actually able to wear the masks. In Africa, the monkey is the trickster. It is the character that spoils things when everything is going well. In villages in Burkina Faso, the monkey mask often appears during mass performances, where it plays the role of the jester or trickster. The mask makes all sorts of silly, obscene gestures to make the audience laugh. Although the mask plays the role of the clown, it is one of the oldest and most sacred masks in the village. This mask represents a female spirit from the wilderness that watches over young women in the community and protects them from harm. It watches over them during initiation, marriage, and childbirth, and is particularly popular with the women in the family who dance alongside it. The monkey mask is making obscene gestures with its hips and buttocks. The costumes are made of hemp fiber. This is cultivated hemp, the same sort of material that was used in this country to make rope. The plants are grown in fields, harvested in the fall, and then soaked in ponds or streams, so that the pith begins to rot. When the pith has rotted and softened, the bundles are pounded to separate the fibers from the rotten pith. The fibers are then dried, knotted together to form a costume, and dyed, using either local dyes, which are usually red or black, or more recently to use dyes imported from Germany. These people have been using brilliant colors for their mask costumes for at least 20 years. People offer cowrie shells as gifts to the masks. Cowrie shells are the ancient form of currency used all over Africa. Cowries have now become difficult to find in much of Africa because so many of them have been used to make jewelry in Western African shops. In this close-up, you can see that the female spirit figure is wearing earrings. This two-horn mask carries a spear, with which it fights the spirits of the underworld.
Hey.
Đó với chẳng ngu.
Here, all of the masks from Ouri parade together to the home of the deceased. Each of the masks arrives at the home of the deceased and bows before the entrance to honor the dead man. This assures the ancestors that the deceased is worthy of entry into the land of ancestors. Here you can see the carved geometric patterns that cover the masks made by peoples in Burkina Faso. These graphic patterns are not decorative. Instead, they represent the religious laws that people must follow if they are to receive the spirit's blessings.
Martin, ça va?
All of the masks and the people of the village parade together to honor the deceased. As they circle together, they pause and bow in honor of Ilakarfa. As the sun sets late in the afternoon, the last of the mask performances comes to an end. In the background, the hyena mask jumps up and chases the audience. Just before the funeral ends and the music stops, the musicians, who are called griots in French, show off their own skills as masked performers. All over the world, people celebrate funerals by drinking too much alcohol. Here, senior men and women show off their own skills as masked performers. By this time, everyone has had too much millet beer, which they call chapalo. Finally, everyone is tired, and the masks and spectators return to their homes through the thick afternoon dust.